guys, today I'm going to be filming my fluid change for my ECVT on a 2025 Toyota Camry XLE. This is a front wheel drive. So I got about 22,500 miles. Might be a little too soon to change it. If I'm gonna hurt it, probably no benefit to it either, but I figured this will help anybody who has more miles or just wants to go ahead and change it like I do. Stay tuned. So to be able to work under the car, I went ahead and got these cribs from race ramps. So I jacked up the car from the 4 points, front and back on both sides, and placed the cribs one by one. So that's how I'll get some workspace to work under the car. And I'll also have an even level on the car so I can be able to measure the fluid accurately. These particular cribs are from race ramps. They are the 7-inch wheel cribs. You can buy two sets and you can stack these up to go up as high as 14 inches. I only have 4 of these cribs total, so I can only stack up 2 of them to be 14 inches up. So 7 inches, it should be plenty of room under there for me. So I'll go ahead and get started. All right, y'all. So start by removing this cover right here, this plastic cover. You're gonna have 4 10mm screws, 1, 2 under here, under this, 3 under that corner, and then 4 in that hole. That's the 4 10s you need to remove. And then you got 6. Let's see, let me show you. Where is it? Right here. That's one of them. So you got 6 of these bad boys to remove, these little plastic clips. So get the 4 10s out and the 6 clips out, and that'll get this big old plastic cover out so you can have access to your ECVT. As a reference, that's where you drain your oil, this little plastic thing. So the big plastic part that this bolts onto, that's what you're removing, this big plastic thing. All right, y'all. Big old plastic covers off. Now we're gonna come to the driver's side front wheel here. There's a plastic cover right here that's covering up the drain and fill hole. So go ahead and take these 2 10s out and this little plastic clip right here out, and that should get this little plastic cover off to have access. Okay. All right, guys. This is the fluid that I'm gonna be using to change the ECVT fluid on my 2025 Toyota Camry. I wanted to show y'all before I even start draining it how the fluid looks. Just stick a little clean piece of paper in there. You can do this as well for your reference if you wanted to just kind of glance at the new fluid to compare it to your old fluid when you start draining. So there you go. That's how, it's a clear gold looking fluid, okay? So just as a reference. All right, y'all. I just wanted to show y'all the drain and fill plug tools. The drain plug is gonna use a 10mm hex, while your fill plug is gonna use a T55. Oh, sorry. This bit is a T55. I stuck it into the socket here. So T55. That's what you need for your fill plug. All right. So 10mm hex for the drain plug, T55 for the fill plug. All right, y'all. With that side plastic panel off on the driver's side front wheel, you can have access to the fill plug right there. And that's the one that takes the T55 bit. And your drain plug is right below. right over here, and that's a 10mm hex. Alright guys, just a little tip from somebody who's doing this on their own without any, or a first time doer. I broke off the fill plug first, and I did notice there's gold fluid coming out of it, so that confirms what I checked earlier on my new fluid that I have in my bottle. I double checked the color consistency of it. It's gold clear. That's what looks like it's coming out of the fill hole there. So that's another indicator we're in the correct area. And as far as the drain plug, this is the one that's mostly a question. I went ahead and broke it off as well. And as you can see, it is ECVT fluid coming out. It's not coolant or anything else. As other different kinds of ECVTs, you may be thinking you might be draining the wrong or breaking off the wrong plug, but this looks like indeed is ECVT fluid, just like what I have on hand. So I just broke it off and I opened it slightly just so that it'll start dripping and I can assess the color of the fluid, and it looks like it's the same fluid. So I'll go ahead and continue the process of draining it. I'll go ahead and just continue filming. I'll see if I can get this off while I'm filming, so y'all can take a look and see. And here it comes. Oh boy, look at that. So that is your ECVT fluid. This is the new fluid that they're using for the 2025 model Toyota Camry. So it's not, it has changed, so just be mindful. It's not the red WS fluid from previous models. They're using the transaxle fluid that you use in the rear. That's what they're using on the front ECVT now. All right. All right, guys. Wanted to show you the washer for the drain plug. So as you can see, you know, from torquing this down, it flattens out a little bit. I don't know if you can tell looking at the old one versus looking at the new one that I got straight from, I got from Toyota. So I got this washer from the dealer, and it seems a little more rounded off. So make sure you get a new washer when you do this, because the old washer has already been kind of crushed down to the point where I'm having a hard time removing it, because, you know, torquing it down kind of flattens it out a little bit, and the edges, the inner edges of the washer kind of get caught up on the threads. So you gotta, you know, figure out a way to get it off, either cut it off or do what you gotta do, but it doesn't come off as easily. You might not have the same issue. Yours might come off just fine, but just something to be aware of. So once I use the new washer slips on just fine. But keep in mind, once you torque it down, this washer is going to kind of crush a little bit or flatten out a little bit. So my point being, you want to change the washer every time you do this, so you don't use the same washer again and possibly compromise the integrity of it, and it might leak on you down the road. So get a new washer every time. All right, guys, wanted to show y'all, I did end up cutting off the old washer for it to be able to come out of the threads. I didn't want to damage the threads by forcing it out, so I just cut it and it came right off. So I'll go ahead and place the new washer now. All right, to torque this down, I got the specs from Toyota. You want to torque it down to 37 foot-pounds. 37 foot-pounds. All right, guys, I drained the fluid. So now with the drain plug in place and the fill plug loose, we are ready to fill the ECVT back up. What I'm gonna do next, before I do that, I'm gonna measure how much came out of my ECVT to compare it to the amount of fluid I'm supposed to put in there. I know from the owner's manual how much fluid it's supposed to take. I'm gonna compare that to what came out of the ECVT, just to have an idea or a reference of how much was in there. and you know, I just like to know how much comes with from the factory, which it should be the same, right? I mean, it shouldn't be any different. It should be the same amount you're supposed to have in there from the spec. But I'm gonna go ahead and check to be sure how much exactly came out, okay? All right, y'all, moment of truth. We're gonna see how much came out of the ECVT, okay? Here it is. Didn't look too bad. Looks darker in the container, but as you're draining it, it looks pretty clear for the most part. So you shouldn't really need to do this at 22,500 miles, but I figured for the sake of me knowing the skill on how to do this, and for YouTube, I don't think there's many videos on this particular model yet on how to change the ECVT fluid. I figured I'd do this, and it's not gonna hurt my car either. If anything, it'll help. It'll either help or be of no difference. But hey, that's my money spent, not yours. At least you get the knowledge from doing this. All right, guys, let's see how much is in there. Give me a second. So we got about 3,000 milliliters, almost 3,100 milliliters based on my container. So bear in mind, I drained it out as much as I could. There was maybe a drop every 4 seconds by the time I put the drain plug back on there. So, you know, obviously I'm not gonna get every single drop out of there, but I drained it as best I could. And yeah, I got about 3,000. So it seems like it's a little bit less than what the spec says. Let me check that. Well, you guys should know the spec. If not, I'll mention it on my next clip here. Alright guys, so again, just wanted to show you all again what I got out of my ECVT. About just a tad bit past 3,000 milliliters. I did check the spec on the amount of fluid that's supposed to be in there. It's 3.67 liters or 3,670 milliliters. So take that with a grain of salt, you know. I'm planning to put about 3.67 liters back in there. With that in mind, I'm gonna also keep in mind what Ahmed and Car Care Nut mentions, to kind of basically overfill and then let the excess fluid drain out of the fill plug till it just starts slowing down, and that's when you know it's at the right level. So that technique, along with the knowledge of knowing that I need to put 3.67 liters in there, I should be ready to start filling this thing up. Alright guys, figured I'd show y'all as I'm pouring this into my container. I just wanted to see or show y'all how my ECVT fluid looks at 22,500 miles. Here it goes. So it looks darker in the actual container than when you're pouring it. Doesn't look bad though, as I mentioned earlier. You may not necessarily have to do this at 22,500 miles. Might be a little too soon, but I did it more for the knowledge of being able to do it. It's just, at least I know I'm starting from zero again with my fluid. And after this change, I most likely am not going to do this again in 22,000 miles. I'm going to wait much longer. Almost like a break-in oil change, even though that's probably not needed in this instance. But as I mentioned earlier, my money, not yours. Figured you're learning how to do it, at least for when you want to do it, whether that's 30,000 miles, 50,000 miles, whenever you decide to take care of it. And there you go. That's all the transaxle fluid TE by Toyota that comes out of your ECVT on a 2025 Toyota Camry XLE. Alright guys, just to explain how I'm going to fill my ECVT. So the fluid I have is 4 liters total. So what I'm going to do is pump all this fluid into my ECVT, and with the knowledge of knowing that the ECVT only takes 3.67 liters, then we should have some overflow once I start getting towards the end of this bottle. So what I'll do is I'm going to put a cash container right below, or right there, and once it starts overflowing, you know, I'm going to keep pumping it until I finish it up. And once I finish it, I'll let the overflow continue dripping out into this container until it slows down. And then once it slows down to a trickle, I'll be done and I'll put the fill plug back on. And just to confirm how much fluid I put in there, I'm gonna measure how much overflow came out by pouring this into this. All right, y'all. I decided to make it easier to pump the fluid into this. I'm gonna use one of these. What I'm gonna do is thread this tubing from above down to the fill plug and pump the fluid in from above. It's a little more comfortable that way, I suppose, a little easier. So, and then I'm gonna go ahead and place the container below for the excess fluid. When it starts draining out of the fill plug, it'll drain into this container. That way it doesn't spill all over the place, and I can catch how much excess came out. All right guys, I'm just about ready to start pumping my fluid in. Just want to show you all my setup. There goes my pump right there that I'm going to use. And I went from above, and there's the tube. So I'll go ahead and start pumping and see how it goes. And I do have this cash container for any spillage or excess fluid that comes out. All right, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and start pumping the fluid. I'm just gonna let the phone record while I'm doing this. And once I get under the car to check, I'll try to grab the phone and show y'all. But it's hard to film and do this at the same time, so let me start pumping and get to work here. Oh, damn. Son of a bitch. Alright guys, something else I want to mention. This is the fill plug, and it has a rubber O-ring gasket. I did not get this from the dealer. They ended up giving me 2 washers. I didn't realize that the fill plug had a different gasket in there, or O-ring, rubber O-ring instead of a washer. So just keep that in mind if you go to the dealer to get these. Try to get this one if possible. I don't know if the washer would be fine if I placed a washer in here instead of this rubber O-ring. I'm just gonna keep this O-ring and torque it to spec, maybe give it a little extra nudge after that. I know that's not the most correct thing to do, but learn from my experience, and just be sure to have this gasket when you do your job. I'm gonna go ahead and just stick it back on there. Alright, so this is the new fluid. It actually does look very clear and yellow. So this is a big difference from the old fluid that came out at 22,500 miles. Alright guys, so just a little midway debrief here. So when I was trying to fill the transmission, the ECVT, I wasn't initially able to fill it because the fluid just kept coming right back out. So inside that plug, if you look in there, there's like a metal wall just blocking off the hole. So it's not just an open hole in there. It's like it's a metal wall or piece blocking the hole inside past the threads. So I had a little bit of an issue filling that with the tubing that I had. This was a tubing that I was using, so I don't remember the size of this tubing, to be honest with you guys. But what I ended up having to do is create a seal to have the hose seal off and be able to fill the fluid. So this is just a little thing I made up with a little green O-ring and some gas Teflon tape. So with that, I was able to get my family member to come help me, and they pumped as I held this in. So with that, it created a seal where I was able to pump the fluid in. So just be mindful, it's not going to be very easy to pump that in there because it's not just an open hole. There's a metal piece blocking off that hole. So either you come up with something like I did here. Again, this is just something I came up with. Might not be the best way, but it worked. Or you can buy a bigger tube, maybe a bigger tube that fits right on the hole itself and seals it as you're pushing it in. That might also work. So make sure to, keep that in mind and try to come up with a way to seal off that hole so you're able to pump the fluid in. Otherwise, you're going to be in a pickle. I thought I wasn't going to be able to fill it back in and started to get a little concerned. But I got it in. I got the whole bottle in. I got 4 liters in there. I even had to take the wheel off because I needed to see what was going on. So what I'm going to do now is I filled up the transmission with 4 liters total, the whole bottle. I'm going to put the wheel back on, put the crib under there, lower it down, and I'll know it's leveled. And at that point, after that, I will take the fill plug back out and let the excess fluid drain out, but while the car is leveled. I don't want to do it the way it is now because this is not really leveled. I want to make sure it's properly leveled, so I'll put the wheel back on, like I said, put the crib under it, and take that fill plug back out afterwards, so I can let the excess fluid drain out into the container, and then it will be good to go after that. And oh, and one more thing. Earlier I filmed the clean fluid inside the container here, and earlier I mentioned that the fluid didn't look too bad, the old fluid at least, but when you look at the new fluid inside a clear container like this, it's a big difference. Like, it's clear yellow, you can see straight right through it. So compared to the old fluid, which did look black as y'all saw. So, and this is at 22,500 miles. So, keep that in your mind. If you think it's a good thing to change it, maybe do like a break-in oil change. Again, that can be debatable, I guess, whether it's needed or not. It's not an engine, it's a ECVT. So, but seeing the color of the fluid, the old fluid versus the new fluid, I'm actually happy I'm doing this. So just keep that in mind. Also guys, this tubing here, as far as the size, I didn't even think about looking at the darn packaging here, but the tubing is 1/2 inch diameter. So the 1/2 inch apparently was too small, as y'all saw. So y'all can get something bigger than 1/2 inch, perhaps 5/8 or 3/4. I don't know what exactly would fit in that hole, but just know that 1/2 inch might not work well for you. 1/2 inch is what came with this pump. So what you could do is maybe buy thicker tubing and place the thicker tubing maybe over this hole, or excuse me, over this port here, and put a O-ring, a clamp down O-ring, and just clamp the tubing down to this. That way it's sealed tightly. Same thing on the other end, and that way you have thicker tubing, and perhaps you can pump that way. So good luck to y'all if y'all try that out. All right, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and take that drain bolt back out, let the excess fluid drain out. See how it goes. Okay, looks just about right. So I'll go ahead and put it back. One more thing I wanted to mention or show y'all is that hole I was talking about, or the little metal wall inside the hole. So let's see if I can get y'all to see it. All right, there it is, right there. So it's just a metal wall just blocking the hole. So just be mindful of that little spot on the very bottom of the hole. It looks black. I thought that was a hole, but it's not. It's actually a little plastic piece. So don't mess with that. It's not a tiny hole where you can fit a tiny hose in there. That's not what that is. It's some kind of plastic in there. Don't mess with it. There is an opening on the top of the hole. It's hard to see it on camera, but towards the top there's a opening. So I try to fit a hose to that opening, but it's near impossible. So just do what I mentioned. Get a tubing that will seal off completely in the hole, or create a seal on your current hose, whatever you got to do. But you got to basically create a seal with your tubing so it doesn't leak right back out. All right, y'all, well, I'm gonna wrap this video up. I'm pretty much done. I filled up this ECVT with 4 liters. I opened the drain plug and let the excess fluid come out. The capacity is 3.67 liters. So that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna film me putting back the plastic parts because I'm sure y'all can figure that part out. Let me show y'all again. I know I showed y'all already, but there's a little more clean fluid for y'all. It looks so much clearer and yellow. It does not look black at all like the old fluid. So I am happy I did this fluid change. The next fluid change I probably won't do for another probably another 60,000 miles, unless I what do you call it? I get the urge to do it sooner, but I think 60,000 miles should be a good frequency. So anyways, this is a 2025 Camry XLE front wheel drive. They're all hybrids now. Let's see, let me show you the ECVT on this particular car. I'm sure all hybrids have the same ECVT. So right there. So this is your ECVT on the Camry PB11. Okay. All right, guys. Hope this video helps you out in doing a drain and fill on your ECVT on a 2025 Camry.